I'm Roy Lee Lindsay with the North Carolina Pork Council, and I want everyone to remember bacon makes everything better.
Our next guest stepped into one of the most prominent head coaching positions in all of college basketball prior to last season, initially when he was just 34 years old. And already he's the only man ever to lead any school to the Atlantic Coast Conference Men's Basketball Championship as a player and as a head coach. A star guard under legendary Duke coach Mike Krzyzewski, our guest Jon Scheyer led the Blue Devils to back-to-back ACC titles in 2009 and 2010. During that senior year, 2010, he also became a first-team All-ACC player, a consensus All-American, and an NCAA champion. Last year, in his first season as Coach K's successor in Durham, he led the Devils to a 27-9 record, the first undefeated home record by a first-year head coach in ACC history, and of course, the ACC Tournament Championship. He and his wife, Marcel, have been married for almost 7 years now, and they have 3 children, a 6-year-old girl named Noah, a 4-year-old boy named Jet, and another boy named James, who will turn 2 years old in May. Jon Scheyer, welcome back to the David Glenn Show, and welcome for the first time to the new North Carolina Sports Network. How are you, Coach?
Man, I'm doing great, especially after that nice introduction. I appreciate you, and great to be with you again.
I appreciate that. I know you've had almost a full year to get used to being the idea of a head coach before you even became the head coach. But take us back to that spring of 2021. I mean, you interview for the DePaul job, you don't get it. I heard you were disappointed. And then somehow within months, you're the Duke head coach. Meanwhile, you have 2 small children, and the next year you had another child on the way. That sounds like a crazy time to jump into your dream job.
We moved in the same year, by the way. So that's not to mention. But you know what? I think I'll look back, hopefully a long time from now, in the year 2020 and 2021. Felt were 2 defining years, probably for my family and probably for a lot of people, because of the pandemic, and it allowed me to really take some time and think about what I wanted to do moving forward. And I always wanted to be a head coach, but I really dove into the process of being a head coach at a deeper level besides just being an assistant coach, because life was kind of on pause there for a few months. And so did a deep dive on myself, strengths, blind spots, and really felt like I could be a young head coach. I was ready to do it. You mentioned DePaul, but I interviewed for a couple of head coaching jobs, and one of them I thought I was going to get and didn't at the end. Another one, I kind of got cold feet right then. I didn't feel it was the right fit. And, I didn't have any expectation of being the Duke head coach at that time. And in the course of about 3 months, circumstances changed. The opportunity was there, interviewed, went for it. And, June 1 of 2021, I became the men's basketball coach at Duke, and it was one of the best days of my life.
Another huge fork in the road, Coach. The last thing I would want to do, given you've been so good to me over the years, is ask you about something painful. But you've turned something painful into something meaningful. A lot of people forget your horrible eye injury, right? I think it was Joe Ingles. Joe Ingles has a place in your universe forever, right? He pokes you in the eye accidentally. You're a young professional basketball player after those great years at Duke. And it was crazy, man. The retinal tear, the optic nerve damage, you're wearing a patch for a while. I heard you had debilitating headaches in the recovery process. Now, you did go on, for the record, to have some really good games after wearing goggles, and you even played internationally. But I can't imagine a bigger fork in the road of life, because if you had not unplugged your playing career when you did, you wouldn't have been this uniquely qualified 34, 35-year-old coach with 8 years under Coach K. How do you reflect on what was a physically painful moment, but it certainly turned out well in a way?
Another, of course, defining moment for me, and I don't believe in everything happens for a reason. I don't necessarily believe that. I think if you look at all different things all different circumstances across the world, way worse than my eye injury. I don't think you can rationalize some things that happen, but I do think you can control how you respond to things that happen to you. And that was really the last goal that I had for my playing career. It was a final step. I told my dad when I was about 13, 14 years old, about to enter high school, that I had a few dreams. And one was to be a McDonald's All-American. One was to win a national championship. I actually told him we're going to win the national championship and I'm going to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And never, I think I was more just whether I was sane or not, it happened. And then the last one was to play in the NBA. And there was no piece of me that thought that wasn't going to happen. And the eye injury, even after that, I played a month and a half later. I went back to training camp with the Clippers, played summer league with the 76ers, played in the Houston Rockets G League team, the Rio Grande Valley Vipers, and was determined to get back. And I made a decision to go play in Europe for 2 years. Great experiences as a person and as a player. But I felt in my heart at that point when I was 25, I always dreamed about being a head coach. And I thought I'd be at age 35, not 25, of being a coach. But I knew it was the right time to get into it with Coach K. And something else was destined for me. And I think this was the path that I was meant to be on.
Having followed you guys from afar for a long time, I could make a long list of similarities between you and Coach K and a few differences. Similarities include, from my perspective, you guys are two of the smartest guys I've ever interviewed. You also have deep roots in the Chicago area, obviously. Differences, another long list, but you don't drop as many F-bombs and you're not as hard on the referees. Give us an idea. You'd be crazy not to mimic much of what you lived as a player and assistant coach. But what would be an example of a Jon Scheyer tweak to the Coach K way? And what were the most important things you wanted to make sure remained the same?
Well, it's funny. Part of the amazing part of, being the Duke men's basketball head coach, Duke is the best university in the world. I think we have the best program in the world, and it's a lot of great things come with that. I think on the flip side, in year one or year two, you're being compared to what Coach K did at year 40, 41, 42. And so for me, I think people can assume, okay, you're not as hard on the refs, or you're not, you don't drop as many F-bombs or all those things. And that may be true, by the way. I'm not saying it's not true.
Right.
But also that doesn't mean that for me that I'm not that's part of who I am as a person too. I'm not saying dropping F-bombs. I'm talking about being a competitor, and that's a huge similarity that I follow with Coach K. Like, I want to win as bad as anybody. And for me, I realized that I have to do it a different way. I knew going into this, I'd be compared to him. And for me, I have to be myself, because end of the day, it's a different time in college basketball, but also I know who I am. I know what my strengths are, and I have to continue to get better as a coach as these, next few years go on. So again, for me, the most important thing, though, to your question, David, is I want people to look at Duke basketball and still feel the same way. It's not just about winning to me. It's about how Duke basketball makes you feel. It's about seeing a group, a team come together and sacrifice for one another, the unselfishness and the mentality that if you play Duke, it's going to be 40 minutes. You got to play your butts off for 40 minutes to be able to beat us. And that's something that we don't have the luxury of having 3 or 4 year players as much, but that's something we have to continue to create with our culture in a shorter time period.
The oldest restaurant in New Hanover County has a brand new look, feel, and taste, making it the #1 place for great food in Wrightsville Beach. Owner Jimmy Galeese and his wife Keaton have poured their hearts and soul into the reformation of this North Carolina coastal classic restaurant, and the impact has been fantastic. King Neptune serves fresh fish, chicken, and steak, and has an amazing wine and spirits to lift your dining experience to make it the best at the beach. Come taste the creations of Chef Chavez and you'll know that you have tasted a little bit of heaven right there in Wrightsville Beach. That's King Neptune. Call them at 910-239-3055 and make your reservation now. King Neptune in Wrightsville Beach, a proud partner of the North Carolina Sports Network.
Coach K was our guest not too long ago on the David Glenn Show, and it will not surprise you to learn that he said loves Jon Scheyer, loves being around Jon Scheyer, is energized by being around Jon Scheyer's players, but doesn't want to be a distraction, he always says. What's the best way to describe? I mean, he's still on the Duke payroll. Are you like putting him to work on a regular basis? How does it work?
Coach K and I are in a lot of ways closer than ever, David. And that's, even closer than when I was a two-time captain for him, coaching with him, coaching for him for 10 years. I feel like we're closer than ever because he's, the only other person I feel that can somewhat even understand what it feels like to be in this seat and be in my shoes. And the only reason I say somewhat is because he doesn't know what it's like to follow him, but he knows what it's like to be the Duke men's basketball coach. And there's nobody that knows me better than him, knows our program better. And I think the thing that's going to separate him and his legacy is the fact that a lot of coaches just want it to be about them and the success they had when they're in the seat. Where for him, he set our program up for amazing success moving forward, including being a huge advocate and supporter for me just in the many private conversations we've had over the last 2 years about our team, about our players, about our program moving forward. He's been an incredible resource, and he doesn't want to be out there in the public light and saying it to you. But for me, he's been a key guy. And I think that should follow with him in his legacy, the fact that he's wanted Duke basketball to continue regardless of him coaching or not.
I always thought it was cool that Coach K never lost touch with his childhood buddies from Chicago. He used to tell great stories about how as teenagers they would mimic the pro wrestlers at the time, among a bunch of other fun things. How large is your text circle with the old buddies from like Glenbrook North High School? I don't know if they're mostly basketball buddies, but how does that work now that you're only 18 years removed or whatever from being around those guys all the time?
Yeah, it's I haven't been asked that question, and I'm glad you asked it because for me, you value the family and the close friends more than ever when you go through this, because it's a lot of the emotions of wins and losses, and it takes you up and down, and you try to stay steady, but it's a lot no matter what. And I have a few group chats still from back home. I have a chat with bigger, probably about 15, 20 of us, but probably my favorite one, we only have about 4 of us in there. Actually, 4 not including me. And it's 4 of my friends from back home, my year in high school, a year above me. And 3 of them played on the basketball team. 1 didn't. 3 of them have been my best friends since I've been 5 years old, 6 years old, and been with each other ever since. And that's what makes for a special friendship. They come down often for games. And hopefully it's what it was with Coach K and Mo and his crew, where they'd be here, for 40 plus years coming to games. They're only in for 2 years with me so far.
We all learn a lot by observing, and you certainly watched Coach K in many ways, but we also learned by doing. And last year was your first year of actually doing as a head coach, with the exception of a couple of those fill-in games. What were the most important things you learned about yourself specifically as a head coach during that maiden voyage that included the ACC title and all the other success I mentioned?
I compare it to my freshman year in college, David, where you feel very confident, you're excited about it, but until you go through it, you gain a deeper sense of belief in yourself, your system, your values. And for me, it was just a matter of, after the season, doubling down on those things, because we went through a tremendous amount of adversity in year one. And starting with injuries of, Drake Whitehead and Derek Lively right away at the beginning of the season. And so we had to navigate some things a little bit differently, and to see where our team got to by the end of the season, I felt we were playing as well as anybody in the country. We lost a tough game to Tennessee in the second round after winning the ACC tournament. But I felt we were right there to make a run. And so going into this year, I felt just very confident and even a deeper belief knowing, how mentally tough you have to be as a player, but also as an assistant coach, as a head coach that comes with the territory of being in this program. And that's the thing I felt the most after year one.
We have only so much time together, so I'm going to merge a couple of questions that I had for you. Number one, how in the world do you continue to sign the number one recruiting class in the nation, even in the midst of this famous coaching transition? That's easier said than done. But maybe part of the answer to that involves the second question, which is, unless I'm forgetting somebody, for Coach K's final 25 years, every full-time assistant was a former Duke player, including you, of course, but a lot of others. So that's 25 years without sort of the outsider. You have Jay Lucas. You have Emmanuel Dildy, in addition to Carawell and Will Avery and others on your deeper staff. Why have you strayed from that all Duke approach with your coaching staff? And is that part of the success with, your recruiting classes, to whatever degree you're allowed to talk about those guys? It's just incredible. Your incoming class is another number one class.
Well, thank you. I'm excited about the group we have coming in. They're special players. They're really good people. They have great families, and I think that's really what we look for, with guys coming to Duke. And I think the thing is, one, opportunity, right? We have, when you recruit players that aren't here as long, you need to replace them with players that are ready to go right away. And so that's what we look for. We obviously look for complements too, where there's developing players that we have and maybe on a longer track, but we need guys ready to go right away. And next year's class has that for sure. And as far as our coaching staff goes, well, if you look through Coach K's history, again, not year 25 through year 42, but if you look in the beginning, that's how, he got a Mike Bray here. Mike Bray is one of the great coaches in our game and got him from DeMatha High School. And he's found guys from other areas. I think for me, David, it was the best coach at that time. And Jay Lucas, he has deep Durham roots, understands what Duke is all about. Emmanuel Dildy's, really been a great coach and done it a different way, starting at Kennedy King College in Chicago. But still having Duke people on our staff is always going to be important and always going to look to bring foreign players back because Duke is a special place. And so for those two hires, it was the right thing. And going forward, I can tell you we're going to continue to have lots of Duke foreign players, coaches, managers on our staff because Duke is still one of one.
One aspect of your early career that fascinates me is that right now you're the only team in the ACC where 5 of your top 6 guys are freshmen or sophomores.
Right.
You have signed role player transfers, but I wonder your broader philosophy. College basketball now, guys, Coach, your guys are going against like 24 and 25-year-olds with the COVID year and redshirting. Everybody's older, and you've got all these freshmen and sophomores out there. Are you interested in high-profile transfers, or do you want to stick to more the old-fashioned way where you're going to keep signing those prep All-Americans and take them as far as you can go?
Well, I would flip it on you for a second. And if you were to ask other coaches who have some of the guys you're talking about, the 24-year-olds, and we have a couple of them, by the way. We have a couple of them. Would you not want Kyle Filipowski, as a freshman or sophomore? Would you not want Tyrese Proctor as a freshman or sophomore? Mark Mitchell, I could go down the line. Cooper Flagg for next year. Are you kidding me? Of course you want those guys. And so I think the thing that's important to understand is year to year it can change where you may lose a little bit more than you think. And you need a transfer to come in and play a bigger role, which could happen for next year. You may have where you have a core group returning that's more than you expected. So you don't need that as much. Like was the example for our group this year. So for me, we're always going to take the right person and player, regardless of age, the right talents, and then finding the combination in the mix of experience, being a little bit older, and also the guys that can help complement winning.
Hey folks, David Glenn here for Organize for Success. I am a better person and a more effective business owner for having known and learned from Emily Parks over many years now. Emily's company, Organize for Success, helps multi-passionate business owners and executives bring harmony to all the layers of their lives, from work to side projects, from friends and family to hobbies, community, and beyond. With Emily's help, you too can make every minute matter. She helps you determine what earns your time and how to efficiently accomplish what matters. One of the many things I love about Emily is that she doesn't impose her will on her clients. She listens to them. That way she can better help them cultivate the lives they want to live. You can set up a complimentary call with Emily today by visiting organizeforsuccess.com. That's organize, F-O-R, success.com. I know you only think of the next opponent, and I get it. But since I only have occasional visits with you, I want to ask a broad question. There's that team down the road that you play at least twice a year, sometimes more. And I seriously didn't know the answer to this for Coach K or for you. Do you really think about the Tar Heels only twice a year? Or as part of like one of the world's most famous sports rivalries, not an exaggeration? Is there a broader definition to how you view another of the best basketball programs in college history right down the road?
You know, it's, to be honest with you, I have such tunnel vision during the season because
I believe you.
I'm telling you, as soon as you look away or start comparing or wondering, you're going to get beat. Like, I promise you, you're going to get beat. I've experienced it before. And so, again, I have great respect for Hubert, for Carolina's program and what they've done. They're having a really good year. But it's all about Clemson for me right now. It's all about Virginia Tech next, and then it will be about Carolina. But right now, and then throughout the course of the season, it really is about what we're doing, and that's it.
I'm going to get you out of here with the lightning round, but would you know – you definitely know your head coaching record against the Tar Heels head-to-head. That's not hard because you're only in your second year. Would you know your record as a player, as an assistant coach?
I would not, actually. I don't know overall.
The short answer is that you are exactly 500.
Is that right?
You were 2 under as a player. You were dead even as an assistant coach, and obviously you're 2-0 as a head coach. So you're trending in the right direction.
It's like the last 100 games, whatever it is. It's amazing how that goes.
Our time is short, so I'm going to get you out of here with what we call our lightning round. This is brought to you, our viewers and listeners, by our friends at XL Moving and Storage. Whether you're moving locally, nationally, or even internationally, and whether you're a residential or commercial customer, please consider our friends at XL Moving and Storage, an award-winning Allied Van Lines agent with 25 years of experience helping North Carolinians with their moving and storage needs. Visit them online at xlms.com. That's EXCELMS.com. All right, to get you out of here, this could be like a one-word or one-sentence answer to each of these. We live in a state that is famous for great beach houses and great lake houses and great mountain houses. What order would the Scheyer family put those in?
Beach house, lake house, mountain.
Besides basketball, what sport do you follow most closely?
Football and then baseball, those two.
All-time favorite trip or trips outside the United States?
Oh, man. That's a great question. Took the family to Mexico and had a great time in Mexico.
A few favorite bands or musicians?
I still love Drake. I know our guys they're growing into different artists. I love Drake. I grew up on Luther Vandross.
Nice.
I love, I like artists like John Mayer too. Country music. I kind of can do it all a little bit.
Your tunnel vision suggests that maybe this next question is for the off season, but do you have a favorite actor or actress or author or artist? Any one of those?
You know, yeah, I mean, yeah. Tom Hanks for me is like Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington. It's hard to beat those two guys as far as greatest actors. I listen to different podcasts and things like that too, but those two guys stand out to me.
And then finally, our main sponsor here at the new David Glenn Show is the North Carolina Pork Council, Coach. So we ask everybody, I mean, not everybody's tried Eastern-style barbecue, Western-style barbecue. Most people like bacon, pork shoulders, or whatever. Do you, Jon Scheyer, have a favorite pork product that you enjoy?
You know, I love, I'll tell you what, it's North Carolina barbecue just in general. I love Mark Mitchell is from Kansas City. We went to Kansas City and had some great barbecue there as well. But I just like any brisket, barbecue chicken. I just like any of that. I'm a big fan of the barbecue down here.
His name is Jon Scheyer. He was last year's ACC championship coach. He has been a national champion as a player and as an assistant coach, and likely someday as a head coach as well. I really appreciate this, Coach. We have a new enterprise with the North Carolina Sports Network, so thank you for being generous with your time. I always enjoy our chats.
Same here. I appreciate you, David. Thanks.
You got it. That's Jon Scheyer of Duke. Thanks for being with us today on the North Carolina Sports Network.